Okay, we're back once again for another episode of the Watering Hole Podcast. I'm Johnny Amaral. I'm your guest with the Friant Water Authority, and I am thrilled to have with me today one of my best political buddies that I've known for many, many years, going back to, I think, City of Tulare or Tulare County Supervisor days when you were a candidate for Tulare County Supervisor. I think that would have been in the late 90s.
Don't advertise how long we've known each other.
It says something about me too. But she is none other than Connie Conway, who recently became a member of Congress. And we're going to talk to her today about, well, why in the hell she would want to do that, for starters, and what it's been like. So, Connie, welcome to the Watering Hole Podcast. Glad to have you.
I'm happy to be here. Today it's the Connie and Johnny show.
Connie and Johnny
Or
show.
the Johnny and Connie show.
Hey, maybe when your congressional career is over, we can do this together.
Okay. It was probably over before it started, but okay.
Well, we'll get into that because I do have questions about that. But
yeah, me too.
So for the listeners who don't know, Connie, how you've come into the position that you're in now. I mean, everyone in this area has known you for a long time. You've been elected for a very long time and done an excellent job representing this area at the county level and the state level. But very recently, you ran for Congress in an open seat, vacated when it was opened by Devin Nunes resigning from Congress. Everyone wants to know why. Why did you do it? Why did you run for Congress?
Because you guys just thought I was crazy, and I decided to prove it to you by running for Congress. And I say that with tongue in cheek. It wasn't an opportunity that I ever thought about, considered, because Devin was my congressman, and he was gonna be, and then sometimes life just happens to you, and it seems to happen to me a lot. So when Devin made his decision, when the state of California made its decision or the Democrats decided they couldn't get rid of him any other way because they couldn't beat him, they decided to just draw him out. So then Devin, made his decision that was best for him and his family and what he needed to do going forward. And I thought about it for a while. I wasn't the first one to jump in like everybody else before they even knew whether it was happening or not. But I think, something you just said, I'd had many opportunities to represent the area. I was very familiar with it, of course, serving as a county supervisor and then in the California State Legislature, and actually even the appointment by President Trump to run the Farm Service Agency for the state of California. It's like your life experience. I always tell people, we're all a sum of our life experiences, and I felt like those were a good background for me. But I waited until I didn't know if Gavin with the good hair was going to actually call a special election or if Aunt Nancy was going to talk him out of it. So I waited till the governor said, and then I saw the other candidates and I decided, I can do this because it was limited, I know my own limits, and so it was term limited, but I felt I was the right person to finish the job, like I say, to finish it strong. I'm very concerned about the district and making sure that people got what they needed because Mrs. Pelosi's clerk was the congressperson for 6 months, and
what gets lost in this a lot is the 700,000 people that live in this district would have been without a member of Congress, and that means people who have issues with the IRS or with getting a passport or you name it, immigration services, they would be basically unrepresented. And so
and me, I'm hands-on, and that's really what I was worried about. I think some of the other candidates, God bless them, I'm sure they're nice people, but they were what I called stepping stone candidates. They wanted to use it as a springboard to something else. So if they had done that, would they really have paid attention to the constituents while they were running for something else at the same time? I'm finding out that that's a very difficult thing to do. So
there was there was quite a few instances of that, if my memory serves me right, where there were multiple candidates on the ballot in multiple races, which is it's very confusing. Seems very odd to run a campaign that way, but we're glad that you did it because being someone who worked for Devin all those years, was trying to do the math in our earlier meeting, how many years, enough years to where I got gray hair, let's put it that way. I think it's very fitting, and probably it's, I don't know, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but there's nobody better that could finish out Devin's term than you. So we're thankful that it's you.
I appreciate
and,
that
I
very
hope that
much,
you're
Johnny.
enjoying it.
Well, as I said at my swearing in, to whom much is given, much is expected. Or the other translation is, to whom much is given, much is required. Mm-hmm. And I really kind of felt that way. So coming from you, that's a great compliment. Thank you, Johnny.
Well, thank you. Well, how's it been so far? Is it everything you thought it would be and more?
Oh,
a dream?
It's Sacramento on steroids. I was telling Mike Johnson, who's part of the McCarthy's leadership team, he said, well, what do you think, Miss Connie? I'm not even from the South, but
yeah.
What do you think, Miss Connie? I said, it reminds me of a beehive, actually. We have a queen bee up there, and then all the drones and the worker bees, everybody's just like buzzing around the hive because no one sits down. There's not desks. I mean, talking to other members from other state houses, which there's quite a few, it's a big auditorium and everybody's floating around and the work is done earlier and you really just come in there to vote. So I was telling Mike, I said, so you buzz over here and these guys are buzzing and it's just all over the place. He goes, that's a really good description. He said, but just remember this, inside this little beehive, there's murder hornets. And boy, is that the truth? I said, wow, that's profound.
So it sounds like nothing's really changed.
No, you didn't miss anything.
Oh, good.
You could walk in tomorrow and say, some things never change.
Yeah.
Although, I don't know, I hear from others that it's, in the country, I think it's pretty divided, more so than in my lifetime, which is a lot longer than yours, more so than I can remember the division.
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And it seems to be every time I do one of these podcasts, that comes up.
Yeah.
It's probably just the kind of the way things are at this point in this country. But I think it seems like it's largely driven by, Trumpism, right?
Yes.
And then, of course, social media it's like a powder keg, and that social media is the match. And in years past, going back to when you were a county supervisor, like if you did something for whatever, to cast a vote that somebody didn't like, there might be a letter to the editor in the local newspaper, and you'd hear about it for a couple days. Hey, you'd see somebody on the street that say, hey, did you see that letter to the editor so and so wrote? But then it would go away.
Yeah.
You'd learn from it, maybe not, whatever, take from it whatever you need to take from it and move on. Now, like, any jackass with 3 followers on Twitter can just try to make your life hell, and then who knows how people pile onto it. So it's just, social media is such an odd, especially Twitter, it's such an odd platform where people tend to treat Twitter messages as if it's somebody sitting across, like we are right now.
Yeah, or somebody that knows something.
Somebody that knows something, or somebody that knows you.
I think I actually like the bots better than the trolls.
Yeah, well, maybe. Who knows? What's the difference? But
yeah.
But it is an odd time. There's no doubt about it, and I don't know how we recover from this. We have to eventually. But
on a serious note, yeah, I am very, very worried.
Yeah.
About it every day, especially seeing it firsthand. Sometimes you've heard the expression lead from the middle, and maybe this country used to be able to do that. And there's always people, with their own opinions for whatever. Some, I think there's true believers. Some like the limelight.
Yeah.
Some want to play to back home because they can get on social media if they say something outrageous. But I'm not seeing a lot of middle ground, that working together on things that make a difference.
Yeah.
And I know when I talk to you, eventually we're going to be talking about water, but it's one of the mysteries to me. It is so important to everyone. Why reasonable, sensible adults, of course that was going to be a caucus I was going to start, or my own party, the RSA, Reasonable, Sensible Adults, why we're not solving problems like that together. And then we can talk about this other stuff that's left and right. But I believe people think that on the Republican side that the far right, is pulling everybody over there. It's not what I see, but definitely because I see the pain on the face of some of my friends across the aisle that get pulled so far left, and that's just not how they are, because I have...
Well, the House of Representatives, I mean, its very nature is it's a reflection of American society. It is. And
It's supposed to be.
yeah, well, and in many ways, I mean, if the U.S. Congress, if the House of Representatives has become tribal, that's because a lot of what's happened in the United States is becoming tribal. People are picking sides, picking teams. And
Well, I was talking to one of my friends across the aisle that I've known since he was a county supervisor. It is one of the advantages I feel I have. I've served with almost the entire California delegation on both sides of the aisles in some form or another. So this was someone who was a county supervisor and then was in Sacramento, and then is now in Congress. And he told me, man, I almost didn't re-up this time. Because I consider him a reasonable, sensible adult. And it just makes it very difficult. Of course, I've had a couple of those moments myself. It's like, really?
Yeah. You have to, I mean, it is, being in public service, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, the outside world thinks it's all just kind of glory and private jets and things like that. But the reality is it's hard work, it's late hours, it's tough. And it's not, if you think about it, there's not a lot of glory in it. So
no, it's not. I tell people, you think this is powerful and glamorous at when I'm taking a red eye and running through the airport,
right,
literally in Chicago. It's like, this is neither powerful because it certainly is not glamorous at all.
Yeah, no, it's but that moments like that will be replaced with brief moments of sheer joy, like something good happens, or you run into a group of constituents and have a good meeting. Those things, they keep you energized. At least they did for me when I worked back there. It's especially when you see people from back home that go back to DC either on business or even for a family trip or something like that. I mean, those are the fun times.
It has actually energized me, really, Johnny. I hate to admit that, but it is true.
Yeah.
It's not that I was languishing or anything. It's just, my joke is always I come from a workaholic family, and we work someplace till we die. My youngest brother only has one job, so he's like the total black sheep in our family because we have multiple jobs. But
that's a Valley thing.
Yeah. But that energy is there, and it really is driven by the people that allowed me this opportunity.
Yeah.
The voters, even the people that didn't vote for me, I'm still representing them.
Yeah.
So
we're going to go into our first break here, but you have how many legislative days left in your congressional career?
Oh God, I don't know. 20 or
20
so.
Yeah. So
if I'm looking at the calendar,
I think you go back on the 7th or something like that, or
on the 12th of September.
12th
for
of
3
September.
weeks.
Yeah.
Some shorter, some
and you're
longer.
out for the election, then lame duck.
Yeah. I'll be quacking with the rest of the lame ducks.
You will. Last question before the break. My former boss and friend, former boss, still friend. We used to joke when I worked for him. What percentage of members of Congress would you hang out with socially outside of the building? Like if you were out of Congress, no longer a member of Congress, and you were going to socialize with members of Congress, how many would you actually find yourself, hey, now I can have fun with this person?
Right now, 3 or 4.
3 or 4 total.
For the moment.
Yeah. I like to ask that question because
but I don't know.
I can remember when I first started working in Washington with Devin. This goes back to 2002. It was not uncommon for like social interactions across party lines.
Yes,
Very often. There'd be times where we would go to the Democratic Club with a couple friends who were either staff or members on the Democratic side, or they would come to the Republican Club for dinner. Same thing. I don't think that happens anymore.
I haven't seen much evidence of it.
Yeah.
Oh, make that 5. I forgot Valadeo.
Oh yeah. Well,
I hang out with him every day.
Yeah, that's good. Good company. All right. Well, we're going to go to our first break. We're with Connie Conway, Congresswoman Connie Conway. Proud to say. She's our guest on the Watering Hole podcast. Back after about a 9-month sabbatical, And we're happy that Connie is our guest coming back. So we'll see you after the turn. Okay, we're back with Connie Conway. We're back. We're back for the second segment with Congresswoman Connie Conway, the Watering Hole Podcast. I'm Johnny Amaral with the Friant Water Authority. I'm your ridiculous host.
Fun.
No laughing, Connie.
You're a fun guy.
Oh, yeah. So, as usual with the Watering Hole Podcast, we spend the second segment talking about basically water issues, but I'd like to talk to you also today about a little bit of energy issues because things are getting beyond ridiculous, so we have to talk about it. But like here in the Central Valley, we've kind of gotten numb, I think, to all this, everything that's happened especially over the last 30 years, going back to the Central Valley Project Improvement Act and everything that's kind of been put into place since then, that has just slowly but surely eroded.
Death by 1,000 paper cuts. And no water to wash off the cuts.
So, a lot of people have gotten numb to it or maybe just gotten used to it, but obviously, we can't just let this keep happening. And so we're, not just the Friant Water Authority, but many other water agencies and local governments, county governments, and other organizations are constantly spending time meeting with members of Congress, meeting with elected or appointed officials at agencies, just to try to figure out if there's a way to bring some reason back to the way water is managed in California. We being state of California and Washington D.C., we haven't figured it out yet. And there are some who are perfectly content with what's happening right now, but that's a terrible outcome, terrible solution for us here in the Valley. So
they make a living off the rest of our misery.
Yeah, there's a whole industry that's been developed over the last few decades, and they've made a lot of money claiming victory, quote unquote, over all these things. But that's a whole other discussion. But I know you've only been in D.C. since June, but based on your interactions with your colleagues and others who are in positions of influence, do you think there's an end to this misery in sight?
Wow, I wish I could, I like to be upbeat, positive, Connie. I don't know, John.
Be honest. Honesty's the most important thing.
Okay. Hopefully in my lifetime.
Yeah.
And I plan to live another, 30 or 40 years.
Good.
Let's hope I do. It's not for lack of trying. And it's not for, any way you can, you can be nice, you can be mean, there's so many things you could do, and then you get allies and you try to band together. So in my own little subtle ways, I try to, be part of the discussion. So I'm lucky enough to serve on the Resources Committee. With my whopping 7-month career in Congress, I wasn't sure that I would be on any committees.
You have a voting card just like all the other 434 of them.
It's true, and I'm pretty sure I know where it is, although I may not. Anyway, serving on resources, and our chairman, I look for the positive, and the hearings are immeasurably, they're so long, and in some respects a little tedious, but I did thank him because he does let everybody talk. And I think that's one thing that, your tendency is like, okay, I don't want to hear what Jared Huffman has to say. I don't want to hear these things. But he does let everybody talk. And he said, I said, I think it's really fair of you. You let everybody, and you let them finish, even if they go over time. Not hugely. But he said, and I get beat up for doing that on both sides. He says, so, I feel like I'm in the middle and I'm trying to please everybody. But so I thought we had a friendly relationship. So I sent him a little letter because the committee's having a field hearing next week in Morro Bay on wind energy. They're going to put those, supposedly you won't be able to see them, big wind machines out on the horizon at Morro Bay. I don't know. The village of Morro Bay has some huge detractors on that, but I suppose I'll hear from them next Thursday. So I said, hey, since you're going to be there just a couple hours away, let's just take a quick little drive and come to the Central Valley and we'll talk water. And he hasn't answered me back yet, Johnny, so I wasn't holding my breath. But I'll see him anyway.
Yeah.
He's probably not going to respond. So.
Well, one piece of advice I would give is every opportunity you have with him, take it. And if you're going to the hearing in Morro Bay, for sure. We have to be, the collective we here in the Central Valley, we have to be a broken record, squeaky wheel, always. But I
He's
think
from New Mexico, though. That's why I thought that was a hook, because they're suffering too.
I think we actually, do a pretty good job of being squeaky wheel. Like the one thing we don't do a good job of is we don't back up squeaky wheel with any type of political, force or activity. And we're the collective we are terrible at that. And those who are pushing legislation and lawsuits and regulations that further erode our ability to get water, they're excellent at it. They're masters at it. And so we've got to learn, when I say we, again, I mean all of us here, we have to learn that there's a couple of ways to fight the fight and win the war, if we want to call it that.
They are master spinners, and they show up everywhere.
They show up everywhere.
This has been a theme throughout. I mean, when I was on the Board of Soups, when I was in Sacramento, when Governor Schwarzenegger had the California Partnership for the San Joaquin Valley, I mean, they came to every meeting. The collective they, the hepatite chapter of the Sierra Club, people like that. They were in the seats every time. I mean, I don't believe any of them work or have a job, but perhaps it's suing people, and that's what allows them to sit out in the audience and just be present. Sometimes they didn't even talk, but you knew they were there.
Yeah.
They were announced, and you knew that they were taking good notes and everything that was said. But actually, I was glad I was aware of them, so that I don't want to say anything flip or try to be cute and clever as I do on occasion. Try to. So yeah. Anyway,
eventually though,
we got to have friends, Johnny.
And all of these policies though that have been put in place, it's just one failure after another. Unless your barometer is just measuring how much water that has been taken away from the San Joaquin Valley, right? That they've won that. They've lapped us. They're running victory laps. They're high-fiving each other. They're drinking. They've won that and they're still winning. But if the measure or the barometer is what's been done with that, in other words, if the stated purpose is to restore habitat or to restore fish population,
where is it?
Failure. F minus. And so
I don't usually get mad. I say I don't get mad, I get even. But on one occasion I did say, and when you're finished and you've wiped out farming and there's no water and you've returned the Central Valley to a wildlife refuge, is what I think what you want to do, then what? Who are you going to sue? How are you going to, what's your next plan? I told him I'm really interested in that. Yeah. What's next? Because I want to get on your team.
And what happens here? Right? What happens here? When I say here, I mean let's just say that, just speaking selfishly, the east side of the San Joaquin Valley, from Chowchilla to Arvin. What happens here? There are entire communities and towns that exist because of the ability to have an access to a water supply.
Oh, exactly.
So what happens if that's gone? Now, we get labeled as the boy who cries wolf all the time, but evidence is evidence, right? We know what's going on here. There's massive amounts of land retirement. There's communities who are drying up, literally. There's infrastructure that's sinking because of an over-reliance on groundwater, right? With the Friant Canal is one of them. And why is there an over-reliance on groundwater? Well, we don't have a surface supply. Why don't we have a surface supply? I don't fall into the lazy trap of, it's just, drought, or it's just climate change. The truth of the matter is, hydrology in California has been pretty consistent for 120 years, right? We have data that shows that demonstrates that.
We roll it out.
We just don't manage it. It's just not managed well here in California, and
it's
we're paying the price.
It's a shame that we're flushing Sacramento's toilet and cleaning the bay for our dear friends in the city and county of San Francisco, while people here suffer without water.
Yeah, amen. It's yeah, and the sad thing is, like, if you just remove the emotion from all this and just look at, like, what makes good public policy, what do we want this state to look like? Do we want to be able to grow our food?
Who would do this?
Right. I mean, but that part of the discussion somehow never enters into the equation. It always seems to be just a discussion about big greedy corporate agriculture versus this person or this group, and it's just not. Intellectually it's just dishonest. But we're losing. We the Valley, we've been losing. We've been on the losing end of that for 30 years.
Well, what do these people think they're going to eat? I mean, maybe Bill Gates is going to take care of them with his fake hot dogs or whatever it is he has. California brags, though, Johnny. California brags we're the 5th largest economy, or the 6th, or the 7th, or whatever we are now. What part of that is provided by the Central Valley's agriculture? So let's just do that math. Let's just take that all away.
Yeah, it's a scary thing, because like even the issue about food security, it doesn't seem to, like, we know what the impacts are. We know of a reduced water supply, or a deliberately reduced water supply, but farmers in California, I've said this before, but they're really remarkable people, because if you think about what farmers, especially in the Central Valley, have had to deal with for the last 30 years, it's the acknowledgement that their water supply is dwindling, not because of drought, because of
man-made drought,
decisions that are made to do that. And what do? They become more resourceful, they become smarter, they become more innovative, they become more efficient. And what do they do with that? They produce more crop. And so we're, in a weird way, we're kind of our own worst enemy, because despite all of that, despite all the hardships, despite all the shortages of water supply, the Central Valley agriculture has managed to continue to produce. And that's one of the things I think that really angers, some of those who would like to see this area dry up, because they were expecting this area to be dried up by now, or gone, I should say. But farmers have figured out a way to really adapt. But there's an end to that.
I don't know how much longer we can do it.
I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine on the west side the other day, and I know I'm going to butcher this, but I think for the first time ever, the tomato crop's short. Yes. And so that would be unheard of in recent times. But what is that going to do? I mean, it's
and there's no drivers to haul the tomatoes anyway.
Yeah, and if you think about all the products that require tomatoes, pizza, salsa, ketchup. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So it's been difficult to convince soccer moms and average dads that food security is a real problem to be concerned about, because when let's say you live in Bel Air and you walk into a grocery store and you walk to the produce section, what do you see there? You see just banks and walls and walls and cold boxes of fresh fruit and fresh vegetables, produce. And so but if you go to foreign countries, like that's what shortage looks like. I've been to countries where you walk into a quote unquote grocery store and you think, what is this? Is this a jail? So it's so I don't know if we're ever going to be there, but but I know that that food costs.
Yeah.
That registers with people. They notice that a watermelon is $10, or they notice that meat has gone up. Just regular beef has gone up 300%. Like, they notice things like that. But
here's what we're facing with that. I mean, if you stop making rubber bands and you shut down that factory, you could roll that back up again. If we shut down agriculture, once it's gone, it's gone. And I worry. I see the farmers my age, that age group, that generation. They're making it work, but they have sons and daughters and people that. I don't know that the next generation, I don't know that they're there. No. They all have college degrees and they know the science, and everything's computerized and technologically sound, and that's great and that's really good. Whereas farmers my age, maybe not. Most of them can use a cell phone.
Well,
But
a bigger concern is whether or not the next generation wants in agriculture at all.
that's what I mean.
Yeah.
They've gone to school. Their
Yeah.
interests are somewhere
Doing
else,
something else.
and they see what their dad and mom are going through. The family farms,
They don't want that.
and it's like, who heck
Who
wants
the
to do
agri-
that?
Yeah.
I do worry about that part too.
Yeah. Thank you for that. But the last thing I want to ask you about before the end of the second segment here, energy in California. So I can't help but notice, and I think I'm not the only one who's noticed this, but I think about a week ago there was a mandate or an announcement that California is not going to sell gas-powered vehicles by 2035. Before 2035, that was the last time you can get a gas-powered vehicle. You're going to have to be all electric. Yesterday,
I
or
know where
maybe
you're
it was
going.
today,
The grid.
the grid
Yes.
can't handle anything anymore. Everyone's got to turn their thermostats up and be cognizant of their power use.
So if every car
so-
right now was electric,
So I don't know if the right hand's talking to the left up
No.
there, but a week ago we're going to go all electric. Today we don't have enough power to run your AC right now. So, and now I know what the rhetoric is. The rhetoric you will hear is we've got more windmills coming, we've got more solar panels coming, but an idiot like me can figure out
Batteries.
that we have the load that it takes to power California cannot be met by renewables. And I'm going to be called a Neanderthal, I know, but data is data. And
No,
so
you're right.
I mean, these are
and also what happened the day that Gavin with the good hair announced that. Immediately the price of the EVs, went up. Everything went up.
Yeah.
So it's like, no, there's no win here.
Yeah.
And you're out in the middle of the highway and you die.
Actually,
So-
as we're sitting here today, I think there was a bill that the legislature was considering today, or maybe it's got to be done by tomorrow, about whether they're going to continue with basically mothballing Diablo Canyon.
oh yeah,
I'm not sure. I mean, maybe
they're talking about it. They'll probably save that for the middle of the night tomorrow.
Yeah. Well, it's about, if my memory serves me correctly, it's about 10 or 11% of the state's power, and what's on the table now, if without action, is that it goes offline in a couple of years.
I get the impression from former staff who I talk to a lot,
They're
and
gonna,
from
they're gonna
folks
quote
up there
unquote save
that
it.
it'll be, they love drama in Sacramento. I said that one time. This place is like a telenovela with really ugly actors. And Andy Vidak tweeted out, Connie Conway just said that Sacramento is Hollywood for ugly people. And I had to say, that's loosely translated from the beautiful Spanish that I said it in. Senator, thank you very much. Don't translate for me.
Andy. All right. Thank you for that second segment, Connie. We're going to go to break. And when we come back, we're going to do my favorite part of the Watering Hole podcast. We're going to tell Norm Macdonald jokes, and it's fitting that we tell Norm Macdonald jokes. This will be a tribute to Norm because he passed away since the last time I recorded one of these podcasts, and he's my favorite comedian of all time, and we're going to give him a fun tribute. So we'll see you on the turn. All right, and we're back with the third and final segment of the Watering Hole podcast. Before we get into Norm jokes, I want to thank Connie Conway for being our guest today. Appreciate your friendship, appreciate your leadership, and all the years you spent representing this area. It's been a lot, and it's been just a pleasure to call you a friend all these years. So thank you for everything
Thanks,
you've
Johnny.
done.
Don't make me cry.
No, don't cry. Well, now you're gonna laugh.
Cry for happy.
Yeah. So we're going to do Norm Macdonald jokes.
Oh,
Norm
boy.
is my favorite stand-up of all time. And he passed away a few months ago after a 9-year battle with cancer that, interestingly, he didn't tell anyone that he had cancer.
Oh.
So he just died and no one really knew. So anyway, so this is a little tribute for Norm. So we just read these jokes like he did on his podcast. And I always have to tell everybody, full disclosure, because I don't want to get sued. I'm going to give a full disclaimer here is it's a 100% ripoff of Norm Macdonald. This is what he did on his podcast, and it's his jokes that we're reading. So it's all
maybe
this is
your
all for Norm.
version. We don't know about my version. The last time I saw Norm was on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, yeah, well, anyway.
Was that before you were born, Johnny?
No. Okay. So I'm gonna start now. Some of these are good. Some of them are like dad jokes, but.
Well, just so your listeners,
some of them are not politically correct either. But you're not running for re-election, so you're good.
But let your listeners know that you picked them out, not me.
Yes, I did.
Okay.
I picked them out. There we go.
You picked mine out. You picked your own, and you picked mine.
Yes. All right, here we go. Here's the first one. I don't want to shoot myself in the foot, but my left big toe is a neo-Nazi. Even worse, my big right toe believes that there should be a gender pay gap. You can laugh. It's okay. See? Told you.
Silly.
Okay, first one for Connie.
Hey, you're not going to believe this, but Bill Maher is giving away the solution to all our problems for free.
For free. Oh, what a nice guy. He does like to give away plenty of advice, doesn't he?
God bless him.
Yeah.
I only like it when he agrees with me.
Now this one, I'm going to tell this joke, and maybe I'll get in trouble for this, but they're norm jokes, so you have to
Norm
say.
jokes.
I'm happy to help out a friend, but the next time my roommate asks help putting on sunscreen, he better be talking about his back. Fool me once. Connie, here's your next one.
I like that you amuse yourself.
I love it.
I heard that when Beethoven was 16, he wrote his first symphony. This is the kind of guy who makes you realize what an utter sham your life has been. When I was 16, I was in a McDonald's saying, "You want lids on these?"
See, I told you you'd laugh at these.
Okay, that one was
This is
funny.
This is a joke that was written, I think, when the Olympics were going on in Brazil. Crowds in Brazil greeted arriving Olympians with signs that read, "Welcome to hell." Their local Chamber of Commerce really needs to brush up on the basics.
Oh, is that a Portuguese joke?
Yeah, could be.
Okay. I signed up for my company's 401k, but I don't think I can run that far.
You get it?
Yes.
We may or may not have someone in the room who's trying to hold his laughter back, but unsuccessfully.
That's just so dumb.
All right, here we go.
That is a dad joke.
Yep. See? I need to have 2 glasses to see my family. No, I screwed it up. I'm going to try this again.
You gave us the punchline.
Believe me, it'll work. It'll still work. I need to have glasses to see my family. Specifically 2 glasses of scotch.
McDonald, isn't that a Scotch name?
Yeah, actually. Or, yeah, whatever.
Irish.
Yeah, you can do this one, Connie.
I don't like the sound of that.
Yeah, you can do it. You can get away with this one. They even say that. You can look at the last word. They say that on cable television. You're good.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you're good. And plus, you're from Tulare, so you can say it.
A heat wave striking in New York has caused horse manure to spontaneously combust. So for the first time in the history, you can explain why New York City smells like a flaming pile of horse shit. Down here it says, "Who wrote this?"
Yeah. Okay.
I'm amused that you're amused.
I love it. I'm probably red in the face. I love these. All right. The world's oldest man, an 111-year-old parapsychologist, has passed away. He now knows for sure that all that stuff that he believed in was total bullshit. Do you want to do the last one?
I don't know. Should I?
Yeah, you should.
Oh, man.
I think it's awesome.
Okay. When Gwyneth Paltrow says that being a movie star is harder than working a 9-to-5 job, she knows because she spent years clearing heavy debris from demolition sites. Oh, no, wait. This just in. Gwyneth Paltrow has never done shit.
All right. That's the end of the joke segment, Connie.
And the last word on the paper is good God.
Good God, yeah. Well, thank you, Connie. You've been a great guest. We went long on every segment, but I think it was totally worth it. I think our listeners will think it's worth it, and I can't thank you enough again for being a part of our podcast. And thank you again. I don't want to pile on too much, but thank you again for everything you've done for the Valley and your leadership. And we look forward to seeing all the stuff you're going to do in the last 12 days of the legislative session. Congratulations.
You never know.
Session.
I have some surprises, and who knows? I may end up in Congress again. You never know.
You never know.
I don't know.
With that, we say thank you to Connie Conway, and we sign off for this episode of The Watering Hole. I'm Johnny Amaral. I'm the host with the Friant Water Authority, and we'll see you next time.